Be honest and transparent with each other about what they truly want. And if those things do not align, then y'all need to separate, okay? All right. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. You already know what I'm talking about, Married at First Sight, Season 12, Episode 14. So in this week's episode, the couples were getting to know each other on a deeper level, like talking about their past so that they can get insight into their present and their future selves. And so they were going to their childhood homes or showing pictures from their younger years and just like talking about experiences that gives their spouse more like knowledge and insight about who they were and how that shaped who they currently are. They also all met with Dr. Pepper, and Dr. Pepper just brought up the unanswered questions that they had when they met with the experts the previous week, or maybe that was 2 weeks ago. I can't remember, but remember they all individually met with either Dr. Pepper or Pastor Cal, and so Dr. Pepper is just bringing up those conversations again, seeing if they discussed any of the problems and if they came up with a solution or anything like that. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Oh, I'm lying. Actually, before we do, y'all may notice I got some glasses on today and I got a ponytail in. And so if y'all watch my other video, my Tesla talk, y'all know how I feel about wearing ponytails and just having my face exposed. And so I put some glasses on so that I can add a little dynamic. Is that the word I'm looking for? A little something like that. We'll go with dynamic. A little dynamic to my face. And so you're gonna see me doing this a lot so that y'all can see my hair and not just my potato face, okay? So let's hop in to the video. All right, let's start with Briana and Vincent. So Briana used to be super passionate about dance, and so she took Vincent to a dance studio to show him that she used to tap dance. And she was saying that she basically didn't want to be a starving artist, and that's why she gave dance up. And she was like, oh, I'm really good at math. Let me just cultivate that strength and hone in on that and become an engineer. But she wanted him to gain some insight into how dance used to be a huge part of her life. Why not show him this part of her life that brought her a lot of joy at some point, right? So while they were there, they did bring up the topic of children again, because remember, Briana is really hesitant about having children because she has high blood pressure and she's afraid that something will happen to her. She did make a comment saying like they don't have to go the business professional route of having a child, like they don't have to do it on the straight and narrow. And I assume that she was implying taking the route of adoption, which does come up later in a conversation, which we'll get to. She was talking to Vincent and said, yeah, it's gonna be a long time before kids come into the picture. And his face was like, girl, what? Like, he was like, I'm not having that. And she was just like, yeah, it's a long time, right? And he was just like, no. Like, this man wanted kids yesterday. And so for them to not be on the same page with this, like, definitely a point of contention. And so he took her to a bodega to show him like his culture and introduce her to like food from the Dominican. He was like in his element speaking Spanish and all this stuff. And so while they were there, he was saying how family is a big deal to him because growing up, he didn't really have the experience that he wanted to have. Like he didn't really have his father in his life the way he wanted him to be there. And he just felt like he was alone while growing up. And so that's why he really wants a big family. And if you remember, he said when he's on his deathbed, like he can't imagine not being surrounded by his children and his grandchildren. And so that's why he wants children, specifically children that are biologically his. And so that was really important for Briana to hear, just so that she can get insight into why Vincent is so adamant about having children so soon and why he wants them to be biologically his children. Dr. Pepper comes to visit. She brings up that conversation, but before she brings that up, we circle back to the whole sleeping habit thing. So if y'all remember, Vincent likes to sleep in and Briana likes to get up at the crack of dawn. And so when she gets up, she expects Vincent to also get up with her. Vincent was like, I don't want to get up, like I'm tired. And so remember, she also doesn't know how to compromise. And so she was like, yeah, like if he would just get off his phone, then maybe he would get up. And he was like, girl, you don't understand that my body is aching. Like I'm on the road all day driving these cars. Like when I get home, I want to rest, I want to relax, and then I want to go to sleep and then get up when I feel like getting up. Dr. Pepper was like, okay, what is the agreement going to be here? What is the solution? What is the compromise? And he was just like, when you see that I'm tired, like, just let me rest. And she was just like, okay, like, I can do that. And she also made it a point to let him know that she does not think he is lazy, which I think he needed to hear, because, you know, he really prides himself on how he comes across to Briana, like her perception of him. And so I think that meant a lot for him to hear her say that. Going back again to the childbirth conversation, Briana brings up again how she's nervous about it because of her high blood pressure. And they do mention that they're going to do research or they're already doing research on women who have high blood pressure and have went through with their pregnancies, because Briana's not alone in this. So Dr. Pepper brings up adoption, and she was like, how would you feel about adopting? And Vincent got really squeamy, and he was like, that's honestly never crossed my mind, so I would need some time to think about it. And I was like, fair answer. They did not wrap up that conversation in a pretty bow. It's definitely going to be something that they will have to continue to talk about. So the rate that Black women die during childbirth is high. And so I understand where Briana is coming from. I understand where her nerves are coming from. And I think the control freak in her is also just trying to control as many of the variables as possible so that she can get the outcome that she wants, that we would all want. You know what I'm saying? I just definitely think it's a deeper conversation that they're going to continue to have with each other. Next up is Virginia and Erik. So they start off by going to Erik's childhood home and looking at pictures of him from his childhood, looking at pictures of him in the military. And it was funny because Virginia made a comment saying like, oh, like this is the equivalent to like Boy Scout badges. And Erik was like, girl, don't play me. This is more important than that. And he's talking about how like family is so important to him and it's a big deal. And then Virginia starts crying and she's just like, you say that family is so important to you, but like you don't even talk to my family. He was just like, oh no, I'm sorry. Because she was just like, you don't talk to my siblings, like you haven't talked to my parents, but I talk to your mom every day and I talk to your sister-in-law all the time. And so Erik was like, okay, this is important to you. I'm sorry because I've just been so focused on us, been focused on these 8 weeks. So let me step it up. He then FaceTimes Virginia's dad, like later in the day or another day or whatnot. He FaceTimes her dad. And he's like, I'm sorry I haven't reached out. Again, I've just been so focused on me and Virginia, yada, yada, yada. Then he brings up how, like, I think Virginia doesn't understand how a marriage should look. Virginia's dad was kind of like, oh, what? Like, he was like, yeah, I mean, there's no one way a marriage needs to look. Like, it can look however the two of y'all want it to look. And so don't be saying stuff like that. He didn't say that verbatim, but that's basically the vibe he was giving off, because Erik is saying this as if like Virginia is not meeting my standards, because Erik is talking about how marriage should look as if there's like this one handbook for marriage, and if you don't meet these requirements, then you don't need to be married. So I really hope he heard her dad and internalized that. He didn't, because in a future conversation, which I'll bring up in a few seconds, but maybe it'll start to sink in later. I don't know. So anyway, fast forward, they go play basketball. Apparently Virginia was like varsity basketball star player, all this stuff. So they're playing basketball. She is showing him pictures of her senior night. And then she talks about how like she had to become very independent pretty early on in her life. I think like in high school, because of the way that her parents' relationship was. Like she really had to just do a lot of stuff on her own. And so I think that's insight for Erik to know why Virginia thinks and responds the way that she does, because she's not used to someone telling her what to do or having these type of expectations on her, because she's just been living life on her own for so long. And so now to be married all of a sudden, she's like, whoa, what is this? That leads into the whole, well, this is what a marriage should look like conversation. So when Dr. Pepper comes to visit them, they talk about their views on marriage, because Virginia had mentioned that she thinks they have different views, which they do. Erik was saying like, you know, there are certain standards that I think every marriage has, like being faithful, not cheating. And Virginia's like, yeah, of course. Like if you're loyal to somebody, like you're not going to cheat on them. Like that's a given. But like everything else should be just like, those people decide what that looks like. Like we decide what works for us in our marriage. And so Dr. Pepper told them to write down their goals for their marriage. Like they individually write down the goals and then come together, discuss them, and see how, like, what actions will they take to reach those goals, right? So Dr. Pepper leaves. They continue the discussion after she leaves, and Erik is just doing all of this shoulding. Like, you should do this and you should do that, and this is what you shouldn't do, and blah, 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 blah. Virginia is just like, who said this? Like, who told you this? This is not how it should look. Like, it's not just a pretty little box that a marriage should look like, and then if it doesn't fit your criteria, then it's not a marriage. When I was watching this, what I was thinking is that Erik should change his verbiage. Shocker, right? But instead of him saying like, the marriage should be like this, I think he should more so use those I statements and be like, I want my marriage to look like X, Y, and Z, or whatever maybe nicer way to say that. But when you say should, it gives the notion that you're comparing. And Virginia didn't make the point saying like, we don't need to compare our marriage to other people, because saying that you should do something is like you're getting this from some outside information. And so like, well, obviously I should do this because other people are doing it. Does that make sense? And so I think if he was just like talking from his perspective and just like what he wants and using those I statements, it might go over differently to her. Like she might receive it differently. You know what I mean? That's just my little bit of advice for him. Erik is a super traditional person and Virginia isn't. That is something that they have to get on the same page about if they're going to make this marriage work. Because also, yes, I understand that Virginia's like, we should make our marriage look like whatever it wants to look like. But like, also, girl, like you be taking that to the extreme. I get you, girl, but like the scenarios you be using, I don't agree with those scenarios. That's what I'm trying to say. They need to talk it out. They need to stop sweeping stuff under the rug. Dr. Pepper called them both out on that, and they need to really like be honest and transparent with each other about what they truly want. And if those things do not align, then y'all need to separate, okay? All right, let's move on to Clara and Ryan. So Ryan goes to have lunch, or maybe he just meets up with her. He goes to meet up with Clara's mom just to see how she's doing and also just get some more insight into who Clara is as an individual. Ryan brings up the whole like raising our children in church conversation. And Clara's mom was saying like before having Clara, she did not go to church like that. But after she had Clara, she started going to church. And she was like, maybe Clara will have a similar experience. And Ryan was like, oh, like that's promising. Like maybe she will, like I'll be hopeful in that essentially. And I was just like, no, like you shouldn't do that. A few videos ago, I was like, if your partner never changes from this day forward, will you be okay with that? And so like, if she doesn't change her mind on this, how is he going to feel, you know? And so I'm just like, I think that's a big risk to like bank on, to just hope that your partner will have this change that is so important to you. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's like little minor changes and stuff like that, like that's one thing, but like this is something that is essentially a deal breaker for you. So I don't think this is the best thing to be hoping that they change their mind on after y'all have kids, you know? So I didn't really agree with his stance on that after he left meeting with her. So after that, maybe the next day or so, I don't know when, they both went to Clara's parents' house to have lunch with them. They were eating pizza. Side note, it looked like Clara had a whole pizza on her plate. I'm not judging, I'm just observing. So her parents were talking about Clara's childhood, and Clara was talking about how like I had the Usher's Confession CD and you broke it. Clara's mom was just like, I'm so happy to see my daughter happy. And so it was just like a cute little family moment for everybody. So Dr. Pepper visits. She brings up their unanswered question conversations, and she was like, Ryan, have y'all talked about the fact that you're withholding sex from Sarah? And I was like, oh, I was like, dang, that was like harsh, blunt, abrupt, insert synonym. Now that I think about it, I think she asked that to Clara, like how she feels about it. And Clara was just like, I mean, of course I want to have sex with him. Like if he wanted to have sex tonight, then like, absolutely. Like, let's do it. And she was like, but I wouldn't want it to just be like a check mark, like just something you mark off the list. And I was like, those are literally Ryan's words coming out of her mouth. Like, what? And I was just like, girl, like, you're just gonna continue to not be honest with this man and just like suffer in silence? Like, yeah, that's not healthy. Brian talked about like how he's never said he loves anyone. And it's like, at this point, I think he's like proud of that. Like, he has no shame in it. He's just like, yeah, I've never said I love anyone. And so he was like, I just don't want to say it so much and then it loses its meaning. And Dr. Pepper was like, I disagree, because every time I get off the phone with my husband or my children, like, we say we love each other because we want the last thing that we say is love. And I was like, that was profound, Pepper. That was profound. And so he was just like, yeah, like he wasn't really feeling it. I mean, I feel like he is going to like build up all this anticipation to say these words. And then when he says them, it might just like fall flat, because like I think he wants to say it and then it'll be like trumpets and fireworks and all this other stuff, but like Claire might just be like, oh great, so does that mean you're gonna have sex with me now? So yeah, and I also think whenever they do have sex, that he's gonna be so like, he's gonna overthink it so much that like it won't be this experience that he's building up in his head, because he's probably gonna be overthinking it. So Dr. Pepper gives them an assignment to write letters to their younger selves. And disclaimer, I think going forward, whenever they have the couples do this, they should say letters to your younger selves, specifically regarding relationships, because, or maybe they're intentional in not saying that, because they did this last season and it happened again this season. One of the spouses, most of the times it's the man, does not talk about like the relationship aspect. He's just like talking to his younger self about like, I don't know, like, ooh, maybe you shouldn't have put stock in GameStop, man, you know? And so, like, I'm sure that's not what your wife wants to hear. So I think they should specify, like, about relationships. That's what we want you to talk about, because you can just tell the look on the wives' faces, like, oh, that's what you're gonna talk about? So anyway, Claire read her letter, and she was saying how, like, tell people you love them. Like, people who are in your life now won't be in your life later. Like, keep being you. You're perfect just the way you are. Ryan's letter was like, I don't regret anything. Like, I wouldn't change a thing about my younger years. Just because you're wrong doesn't make you weak. And I don't remember the rest of his letter, but they definitely were not on the same page. Ha, pun intended, because letters. But they definitely didn't gain any insight about each other after reading their letters. And also, I'm gonna call Clara out, because to her younger self, she said, girl, tell the people around you that you love them. But I'm like, you are intentionally not telling Ryan that you love him because you think he won't say it back. And so I'm just like, whatever, girl. All right, on to Haley and Jacob. So this is some good, wholesome Married at First Sight drama. Like the type of drama I'm used to, not what Paige and Chris have been doing this whole season, okay? So Haley and Jacob start out going to the batting cage. Haley gets there early to practice because she has like this competitive spirit in her. And when Jacob gets there, he's wearing dress shoes and some jeans and a regular shirt. She's just like, why'd you wear those shoes? I think she says this afterwards, but she's just like, are you not comfortable? And like, why are you wearing that? And oh my God. And he's just like, girl, this is what I put on. Like, leave me alone. And so during the batting cage, she ends up hitting more balls than he does. And she's a sore winner. It's just annoying, to be honest with you. So later they also go play putt-putt. She ends up losing during that. And she was also a sore loser. And I'm like, girl, you can't be a sore winner and a sore loser. Like, pick one. And she was just like, I mean, I guess I gotta let you win sometimes. And I'm just like, ugh, you're annoying. They end up chit-chatting on their couch at some point. And Jacob was like, what would you tell? Oh, no. Rewind. They write letters to their younger selves. It was a mess, okay? Jacob was just like, don't be a bitch. Like, good job not quitting football, essentially. And Haley was just like, the friends in your life won't be your friends forever. Listen to your mom. And so then again, they should have specified what they wanted them to say. But anyway, Jacob asked Haley, what would you tell yourself before getting married? Like the day before we met. She was like, I would say you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. And she was like, oh, what would you say? And he did that stupid where he's just like, oh, I don't know, I shouldn't say it. And I'm like, you asked this question. Like, if you ask a question, be prepared to also answer the same question. He said he would tell himself, return the bracelet, or you shouldn't have bought the bracelet, or something like that. this is like news to the viewers because they haven't brought this bracelet up throughout the season, but they had this whole montage and these flashbacks about conversations centered around the bracelet. And so Jacob bought Haley a bracelet as her wedding gift. And initially she thought it was a necklace. And so on their wedding day, she was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna wear the necklace. And he was like, oh girl, it's a bracelet. And she was like, oh my bad. And so according to her, she gave the bracelet to her mom because they were about to go to Vegas for their honeymoon. And then I guess her mom lives in Alabama. That's where the bracelet currently resides. And so Jacob keeps asking, like, where's this bracelet? And Haley's like, it's with my mom in Alabama. And he's like, oh yeah, we need to make sure you wear that bracelet. And she's like, yeah. And then he's just like, the bracelet's not even in the house. Like, you don't even gotta wear it. Where is it? And she's just like, why is this bracelet so important to you? and so he talks about how, like, I paid $800 for this bracelet. I would like it if it's at least under the same roof as you. Like, you don't even have to wear it. And she starts being petty and she's like, what happened to the Alabama hat that I got you? And he's just like, okay, that thing was $20. I spent $800. But my thing, forget the price. My thing is like, girl, him wearing that hat was clearly not an issue for you because you're only bringing it up because he's bringing up this bracelet. And so don't do that. Don't be petty. They talk about it again when Dr. Pepper comes to visit. I don't understand why this is such a big deal to you. Like, this must be super important to you because you keep bringing it up. And he's just like, yeah, like, I just want it in the same house. And like, he keeps making that point that like, I don't need you to wear it. I at least want it to be like an option for you to wear it. And she's just not understanding that. Because she's just like, I didn't know it was a big deal that I need to wear it all the time and blah, 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 right? So Dr. Pepper calls her out and she's saying like, basically, I don't see you holding yourself accountable for anything, Haley, or whatnot. Also during the visit, Haley talks about how Jacob doesn't wear leisure clothes. Like, he's always just like stuffy, essentially. And again, Jacob was just like, I'm comfortable, because Haley was like, he just looks so uncomfortable. And he's like, no, girl, I'm fine. Like, and you bought me these other clothes and I wore them. So like, leave me alone. And it's, again, it's just Haley trying to run this relationship and Jacob like bending to all of her wants and needs and Haley doing nothing. I mean, even the dates they go on are all things that she wants to do. Like, and then she's still not happy about it. And y'all know why? Y'all know what I'm gonna say. Because she don't like him. That's why. They end on a note that was aggravating because Haley ends up calling her mom and was like, can you just overnight the bracelet? Like, can you just ship it to me? And her mom was like, yes, I will send it immediately. Like, I'll send it. And she was like, that's so tacky. Like, if you give a gift, then you need to give it. And I was like, does her mom think that Jacob is asking for the bracelet back? And I was like, Haley is not even telling this story right. And because her mom didn't say that once. They had a whole like dialogue about it, about like, well, if you give something, then like, you can't take it back. Like, that's tacky. Like, if he wants it back, then he can have it back. And so I'm like, Haley is like intentionally not telling the whole story, or she's delusional and truly believes that Jacob is asking for the bracelet back when he said explicitly, I don't want you to wear it. I just want you to have it in the house as an option. And Haley was being petty, saying like, yeah, he gave me the Alabama hat back and he just put it on the dresser, but like, I won't be like him and I'll actually hand him the bracelet back since that's what he wants. And her mom was like, you go, girl. Like, it was annoying. I hate them. All right, y'all, that wraps up my review of Married at First Sight, season 12, episode 14. In case you didn't notice, we didn't see Chris nor Paige in this whole episode, so yay. Next week's episode, the couples are going to go to Hilton Head Island and like get an Airbnb or whatnot and vacation together and also have some more drama. So that'll be interesting to watch. As always, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I hope y'all enjoyed my ponytail today, and I will see y'all next time. Bye. Like, I told Virginia what to do and she's not doing it, which is very on. Am I about to sneeze? She had said that, yeah, like, it's gonna be a long time before we have children. And Vincent like made a face. Ooh, I did not scoot over. Dang. So Dr. Pepper gives them an assignment to write younger letters. That's not a thing. Jacob bought bracelet there in like fireworks. But I don't know. No, I don't want to say that. It's very clear that Erik is just a super So Dr. Pepper gives them